Hello everyone. Bryant from Coaster365 is back with the penultimate edition of ranking the best roller coaster states in America. This is indeed part number 4, so if you haven't watched parts 1 through 3 yet, well, what are you doing here? Go back and watch those first 3, over 45 minutes worth of content. Or, to be fair, maybe you only care about the top 20, of which we are starting in this video. Full disclosure, I had more difficulty with settling on an order for states number 20 through 11 more than any other so far. Even up to me recording this dialogue, I've been constantly switching states back and forth and up and down this list. I'm sure once I even hit publish, I'll want to rearrange them again. But alas, after much thought, I came to a final conclusion. And since we're getting towards the end, in addition to talking about the state's coaster lineups, I'll also try to add in my reasoning of why I put certain states over ones previously mentioned. Part 4 all, states number 20 through number 11. Let's do this, baby. Kicking off the top 20 with a state that many, including the guy you're listening to right now, think is the lower 48's most beautiful. That being the state of New Jersey. No, wait, hold on. Bad typo. Wait, here we go. The beyond gorgeous state of Colorado. Good amount of roller coasters here, a total of 22 currently operating. And as one might expect in the Rocky Mountain state, they got a ton of mountain coasters with 7 sprinkled around the state, most of them, logically, at ski resorts. This fact is a huge reason Colorado ranks so high, because amusement park-wise, Colorado is anything but typical. There are 2 parks in the Denver area, including one, Elitch Gardens, that is the extremely rare park that is right in the middle of the city. While I haven't experienced Elitch, those that have say it's maybe one of the worst in the country, with a pretty weak coaster lineup. There's also the century-old Lakeside Amusement Park, home to 5 coasters. However, their notable wooden coaster Cyclone is currently closed indefinitely. The gem of this state, though, and really in the entire country, is 2.5 hours west of Denver, and it's called Glenwood Caverns, one of the most unique and beautiful amusement parks in the world. It's located at an elevation of 7,100 feet on top of a mountain. I could talk for an hour about this place and its views and incredibly scary attractions that utilize its location to a T. They have a beautiful alpine coaster, the rare one that's actually included with admission, a simple 60-foot high hurricane model called Cliffhanger that, due to its location, gives a much scarier ride than if it were on the ground. And of course, you have the new viral sensation Defiance, a Gerstlauer Eurofighter that just opened in 2022. Words don't need to be said how awesomely crazy this thing looks. Colorado is a very odd state when it comes to coasters. They have a bunch, but mostly none really being of true, I gotta ride that thing quality, and all in very unique settings and parks. At number 19, we're going to another state that gets some snow and has some clean air. We're going to Minnesota, everyone, the land of 10,000 lakes. When it comes to amusement parks, Minnesota's probably more well known for being the home of the Nickelodeon Universe Park at the Mall of America, one of the few indoor parks in all of the US. While this is a fun little park, with a great flume, FYI, roller coaster wise, at least talking as an enthusiast, it's just okay. Their highest thrill coaster being Rock Bottom Plunge, a SpongeBob themed Gerstlauer that I found to be alright, if not even a little bad. For us coaster enthusiasts, NICU is the quick stop to get some creds before Minnesota's real main event, Valley Fair. A super charming and pretty park, they've run into a similar situation as Michigan's Adventure, as they have not received a new coaster since 2007. Thankfully though, their overall lineup is much better. A fun Morgan Hyper and Wow Thing with a very cool tunnel, an extremely underrated Arrow in Excalibur, an awesome Intamin Impulse coaster in Steel Venom, hello holding brake, one of the better Arrow corkscrew rides, and of course, that said 2007 edition, the GCI Renegade, a great Woody with a unique drop and incredible layout, that if it gets some TLC, could be a top tier coaster from this manufacturer. While having slightly less quantity than Colorado, its overall quality, in my opinion, is better, with 2 fun parks of note to visit in the same general area of the state. We've been breathing good so far in this video, huh? Let's keep that going for number 18, heading back to the Rocky Mountains, this time for the breathtaking state of Utah. If you like national parks, is this the state to visit? Stunning beauty everywhere you go. But how are we doing amusement park wise in Utah? Well, in addition to 2 different mountain coasters, Utah's got their own major amusement park called Lagoon. A total of 11 roller coasters here, the most of any park discussed on the list thus far. Half of them are fun for the whole family, with a Vekoma family suspended coaster, a Wild Mouse, a spinner, just to name a few. They have the oldest roller coaster west of the Mississippi, the 1921 Woody called, roller coaster. 2 different Schwarzkopfs, Colossus the Fire Dragon and Jetstar 2. An awesome looking launch coaster from Zero called Wicked. A brand new, highly immersive and themed dark ride coaster called Primordial that finally opened last year after years of construction. I purposely do not know much about this thing, as I'd like to be surprised myself whenever I visit, so do your own research if you want to know what Primordial's about. But the coaster, the one that always finds its way into TikToks, Instagrams, and would you ride this Facebook posts, the massive, huge, 208 foot tall, 116 degree drop in-house coaster called Cannibal. This thing is the reason I have Utah as high as number 18. As even though Lagoon is Utah's only major park, it has a very, very solid lineup, complete with this beast of a ride that has every enthusiast putting it on their must-ride list one day. Okay, y'all, we have reached a point in this list featuring some states that I'm sure many of you may have been wondering what I was going to do with. And it's the only time I'm going to rank 2 states at the same time. Because you see, there's a park called Carowinds, where the border of the number 17 state in the list, North Carolina, and the number 16 state, South Carolina, quite literally goes right down the middle of the park. I have made it clear that I am defining these states based on what coasters are within their borders. And guess what? Such will be the case with Carowinds. Let's start with North Carolina, which outside of Carowinds still has some kiddie coasters sprinkled about and a total of 3 alpine coasters. But at Carowinds, if we're only including the North Carolina side, that's where you'll find the weak wooden coaster Hurler, the okay Arrow Looper Carolina Cyclone, the awful B&M stand-up Vortex, their Wild Mouse, their Boomerang. It's definitely the weaker side of the 2. Except, of course, one of the best roller coasters the world has ever seen in Fury 325. This ride, and this ride alone, carries North Carolina to this number 17 spot. Easily the best coaster of any on the entire list thus far. A coaster every park in the world would kill to have. And I'll admit, I thought about being petty and technically saying, well, half of Fury is actually in South Carolina, only the drop should really count for North Carolina. I decided to not be that guy, as the station is in North Carolina, and you can't just exactly hop on mid-ride. So why is South Carolina ranked higher, especially if Fury is the best in the park? Well, Carowinds has a pretty well-established top 4, and 3 of those 4 are on the South Carolina side. Copperhead Strike, an incredibly unique and awesome mock multi-launch. Afterburn, what some would say is one of the better B&M inverts in the country. And Thunderstriker, formerly Intimidator, is still a fun B&M hyper. And you also have Nighthawk and their kiddie area, which are all not highly praised rides, but still adds to South Carolina's quantity. And let's not forget about Family Kingdom in Myrtle Beach, having what I've heard is an underrated wooden coaster with fun airtime and Swamp Fox. As great as Fury is, I still personally don't think it's enough to top the overall lineup that South Carolina has versus North Carolina. You may disagree, and hey, that's okay, because hell, even I may disagree in a month or 2 from now. We shall see. Top 15 time, folks. Let's go. And here we have a state that feels like it might be too high, but I'm sold on my reasoning. It's the state of Kentucky. I say it might be too high because on paper, Kentucky only has 11 roller coasters. 4 of those being SBF visas, most at a variety of indoor parks called Malibu Jacks spread out around the state. But the good coasters of Kentucky are actually really good. I have this state as high as number 15 because they have, what is thus far, in my opinion, the best 1-2 punch of any state on the list so far. We, of course, go to Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville for the excellent RMC Storm Chaser and the also excellent Chance Hyper GTX Lightning Run. Some of the most intense ejector airtime one can experience in the US, and this describes both of these coasters. Storm Chaser and Lightning Run are both incredibly smooth, have you out of your seat for seemingly half the ride, and coasters you can just ride over and over again. This alone might not be enough for number 15, but then when you add another airtime-filled coaster, the family wooden coaster Kentucky Flyer, and a still pretty solid din wooden coaster in Thunder Run, and another wooden coaster at a different park, the GCI Kentucky Rumbler at Beach Bend in Bowling Green. The number of coasters doesn't matter as much for Kentucky, as what they do have is mostly all good to great to almost even elite status. And now for number 14, with a very similar reasoning as to why Kentucky was so high. I can already see the people that know me rolling their eyes, maybe rushing to the comment section and saying how biased I am for this one. That's right, it is indeed the state I was born and raised in, Massachusetts. Hear me out. I fully realize that Massachusetts only really has one major park, that being, of course, Six Flags New England. But when I say Kentucky had the best 1-2 punch on the entire list so far, how could I place Massachusetts below it when theirs is even better? I'm talking about Superman the Ride and Wicked Cyclone. 2 very, very different coasters, one an Intamin Hyper, the other a smaller scale RMC hybrid. Superman is an icon in the roller coaster world, still receiving awards over a decade after it opened. And it is still universally seen as having one of the best layouts ever made, with that incredible drop right near the Connecticut River, stupendous floater and ejector airtime hills, and that spaghetti bowl section of a second half of both positive and negative forces, if it didn't have those horrendous U-brick restraints, I still think this has top 10 potential in the world. And then there's Wicked Cyclone, the coaster that got me into this hobby in the first place. It's so good. Just a masterfully paced coaster full of airtime, inversions, and speed in such a small and tight layout. These are both masterclass roller coasters, and I don't think it's crazy to have Mass at number 14 because of them. Adding an underrated B&M Floorless in Batman the Dark Knight, a decent old school Woody in Thunderbolt, and one of the better Vekoma SLCs in Riddler Revenge. You may disagree, but once Six Flags New England gets that long overdue new coaster, of which it's been a decade now, I don't think anyone will be complaining in having Massachusetts this high. Lucky number 13 time, everyone. Where are we going? Well, we just talked about a state known for having one major park, that being a Six Flags. So let's do it again with the state of Illinois. Why Illinois over Massachusetts? Well, they have a total of 28 roller coasters. That's a lot. Ton of kiddie rides around the state, as well as a small park in Dundee called Santa's Village with 3 coasters, one being a Zyklon Galaxy. But of course, there's only one true park to discuss for Illinois, and that's Six Flags Great America. Now, I don't think it's too hot of a take to say New England's top 2 are better than anything here. Maybe it is, I don't know. But Great America has a much deeper lineup, with at least 7 to 8 coasters many would call good to even great. Raging Bull, while not one of the better B&M hypers, still has a fantastic first drop. Same with their RMC topper track Goliath, not one of the best, but still a damn good time. X-Flight is a really enjoyable and sneaky intense B&M wing coaster. Bunch of other wooden coasters here with Viper, American Eagle, and even a Little Dipper. You got classic clones that are still solid in Superman Ultimate Flight, the original Batman the Ride, an indoor Wild Mouse, and an Intimate Impulse. Two classics, one an Arrow Looper in Demon that's just but one, a legendary Schwarzkopf called Whizzer, with that extremely unique spiral lift. A really fun ride for the whole family. And finally, what is in my opinion the park's best, the S&S Launch Coaster Max Force. Its 0 to 78 mile per hour launch in just 1.8 seconds is what I believe to be the best launch in the US. Great America's flaw is I still think it needs that truly top tier, holy crap coaster to truly push this lineup into top 10 territory. But for now, we'll settle for a still very respectable number 13. Which means, of course, we're on to number 12. And this is the first state that has a high number in this list that honestly probably should be even higher based on the number of coasters they have. I'm talking about the state of New York. 49 operating coasters here, almost double of any state discussed thus far. So why is New York not in the top 10? Well, despite having so much, I think most would agree, New York doesn't have any coaster that one would consider truly elite. New York's best roller coaster is probably still the historic 1927 Coney Island Cyclone at Luna Park in Brooklyn, running better than ever with absolutely wild laterals and airtime, especially in the back row. And New York's second best coaster is probably Comet, a 1948 wooden coaster currently located at Great Escape. It's another really fun coaster. So is it a good thing that your state's top two rides opened 76 and 97 years ago, respectively? Probably not. The rest of the lineups at Luna Park and Great Escape are far less than desirable. Darien Lake, outside of the Buffalo area, while not having anything I would call bad per se, they also don't have a single coaster, even Ride of Steel, that I would call good. Seabreeze is a charming little park in Rochester, with some fun coasters, especially the 1920 Jackrabbit. And shout out to Niagara Park's forgotten CCI Silver Bullet, and the charming Long Island Park of Adventureland too. But you're New York, the Big Apple. If you make it here, you can make it anywhere. Just not with roller coasters. It's still obviously a vast and diverse ride collection, hence why it's still number 12. But does this state need to up its game when it comes to modern quality? Alright peeps, the last state of the second to last video of this series. You're probably thinking a few states could be in this spot, right? Well, at number 11, I'm going with the state of Tennessee. Yet again, another one of those states that really just has one significant park. But when it comes to those one park states, Tennessee is the king of them all. Or should I say the queen, because who's more of a queen than Dolly Parton? And how many parks are better than Dollywood? Not too many, I guarantee you that. What hasn't been said about Dollywood? It's gorgeous, beautiful, fun for the whole family, fun for roller coaster enthusiasts, fun for casual park goers. Literally in the Great Smoky Mountains. The setting is unmatched. Not one bad coaster in the bunch here. Yes, even Mystery Mine. Tennessee Tornado, one of the best arrows. I personally love Wild Eagle, their huge B&M wing coaster. Fire Chaser Express is one of the best family coasters in the nation, as is Big Bear Mountain, which I've heard, yeah, I still need the credit, guys, but I've heard it's an incredibly fun time. Yes, it's easy to make fun of, especially with its new chain lift hill, but Lightning Rod is still a phenomenal roller coaster. And last but not least, Thunderhead. Just one of the best wooden coasters in the country, point blank, and running better than it ever has. Dollywood might not be enough to get as high as number 11, but then add the fact that Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg is the mountain coaster capital of the world. There are a total of 13 alpine coasters in this area. They're having their own coaster wars with these things, seemingly a new one opening every year. Tennessee is great all, and it just might be one more great coaster away from sneaking into that top 10. Speaking of that top 10, we've made it, guys. Just 10 states to go. and you know they are chock full of absolutely ridiculous roller coasters and parks. And I'm sure and I hope the debate will be hot and spicy. How do you think the last 10s will end up ranking? Leave your predictions in the comments below and or what you thought of this fourth part as well. And if I did a fair job with number 20 through number 11. Just one more to go, everyone, and I promise for it to be the best one yet. You are all the best. Thank you yet again for such wonderful support and encouragement. I'll see you next week for the top 10, baby. Love you guys.